Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike. I'm here with Amy. Say hello, Amy.
Hi.
So, Amy, you got a good dad joke for us today?
Oh, you know I do. What did the fish say when he ran into the wall?
I don't know. What?
Damn.
No!
Oh my gosh. It's so good. It's one of my favorites.
It's an all-timer.
So
Never
good.
gets old.
Never gets old.
You can't slap your knee enough to it.
Very true.
So, from the absurd to the underutilized, what's your favorite word that doesn't get used often enough?
Whilst. WHILST. Whilst doing something. Whilst recording this podcast. Oh, it's just so good. And makes me feel a little fancy. I wish people used it more.
It's like the onion in a cocktail. It does nothing, but you're better than everyone else.
It's so true. That's a really good way to put it.
Is there a movie whilst channel surfing that you will never skip?
Oh, Gladiator. 100%.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius.
That was one of my favorite movies for the longest time.
I mean, it's a banger.
It is.
It's got a lot going on. I wish I could. I love how I started that, and I then immediately realized don't know the rest of it, even though it's like truly a slapper of a monologue.
It really is.
Even though it's like just its title, it just goes on forever as they did in the old days.
So true.
Growing up, did you have a favorite book?
Yes.
What's it called?
Sorry, I was ready for another lightning round question. So my favorite book growing up is this maybe little known novel called Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's
I haven't.
about this little boy who gets to go to a magical academy and hijinks happen along the way. It's great.
It's pretty good. I think they made a movie about it, like one, maybe two. I think not too many.
You know,
So
I don't know that I ever saw it, but I bet it was great. I'm kidding.
Felt
I've seen
very
them all a lot.
translatable. So I've asked your other half this question, and I feel like I know your answer, but still got to ask the question. If you had to evacuate your house, what's the first thing you would grab?
100% my dog.
All right. Now, since I knew the answer to that question, came with a follow-up.
Okay.
Assuming your dog is as smart as he looks, if not smarter, and he got his butt out the door by himself, what would you grab next?
Oh gosh, that's a really hard question. Probably my passport.
I mean, after you burn your own house down for insurance reasons, you do have to flee the country. So that makes sense. I think that tracks.
Well, and it's just like, it's this lovely record of all these wonderful times that I've had, and there's a lot of sentimentality tied up in it.
Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting that. Like, I never look at my passport. I have done not nearly the amount of travel you have. But, yeah, there's all the little stampy stamps in there to remind you where you've gone and where you go.
Yeah, I love a good stamp.
What comes to mind when I say the word underrated?
That's an interesting question. I think it's the first thing that comes to mind for me is probably like pumpkin spice latte. Like, I don't know if you're looking for an object of something that's underrated or like a definition of underrated, but to me, things that everybody likes for a reason, but no one seems to want to take ownership of liking it, like that to me is underrated.
I'm really glad you clarified that, because otherwise your answer would have made quite literally no sense.
If you would like me to re-answer as a definition, I can do
No. That answer holds strong. It's got its own merit there. I like it.
Cool.
Is there a best piece of advice you've gotten over the years that really is kind of stuck in like the back of your mind that really kind of keeps you on the straight and narrow or upright?
The best piece of advice I think I've received was probably recognize the impact you're having. Like, take ownership of that impact. That had a really dramatic impact on the way I lived my life, and I really appreciated that it shifted my perspective from one of life is something that's happening to me to life is something that I make for myself.
What do you remember anything that it particularly changed you that you did one way and then did another, or something that you were doing that you no longer did because of that advice? Something it curbed or something it extrapolated?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best example I can give for this particular set of advice was at work, honestly. I think women especially have this training and social norm built into them that, you know, you just get lucky or someone gives you an opportunity and you really don't have a big impact. And being able to shift my focus to like, actually, I do have a really big impact, and here are all of the ways in which I have made my team better, I have made my job better, I have supported my role. That shift was a pretty big one. And even, you know, living my life day to day and saying like, actually, like, I am a really good partner, and here are all the ways that I try to make my relationship better, and it's not just something I've lucked into or, you know, stuff like that. It's a more proactive rather than passive perspective.
Yeah, and also, it sounds like by looking at it that way, you're empowering yourself, because instead of looking at what you've been given as opposed to what you've produced, you become a different kind of being in your own mind, right?
Yeah.
Because instead of being basically a toddler who's, given a toy at Christmas, you're the person giving toys to other people. It's like, no, I did these things. I have contributed. I have given things to other people. Not just been given things to me. There's like even in the same, and it's not even looking at different things. It's looking at the same thing differently, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I'm gonna have to gestate on that and reincorporate my whole existence.
You should. It made such a big difference for me.
Yeah, no, like I'm saying it whimsically, but that really is just like kind of racking my brain. Mm-hmm. We're gonna have to take a brief break here, folks, while I understand my whole entire plane of existence. In the meantime, Amy, would you please kindly tell us your favorite anecdote?
Oh gosh, yes. Well, have I ever told you about the time my dog made out with Diane Keaton?
No, but I'm here for it.
So I used to work, I say used to because we're no longer in the office due to COVID, but I used to work at a company that was dog friendly. You could bring your dog to work, and my dog has a lot of back problems. So when he's suffering from a back injury, he generally will stay with me almost all day 24/7 to make sure that if something does go really wrong, I'm there. And on this particular injury, he was with me at work one day, and Diane Keaton came to our office to speak about a book she had written. And Diane Keaton, as it turns out, is a dog person. So she got up on stage and started talking about her book, and as she was looking out into the audience, she interrupted the presenter and was like, "Aren't you supposed to be dog friendly? Why are there no dogs here?" And I was sitting in the front row and kind of just pointed to Charlie's little cage and said, "There's a dog right here." And she stopped the presentation, was like, "Oh my God, I need to see him immediately." Came down off the stage. I took Charlie out of his little bag, and she was like, "Can I please hold him?" And he just started licking her face, and she was here for it. Like, kissing him back, had the best time. We completely derailed her entire presentation. She could talk about nothing else the entire time. And at the very end of all of this, it was like a 30-minute presentation. She left the stage to come down and say hello to Charlie again, and his tongue made its way all the way up her nostril. Like, she was in love with him.
Oh, and I am in love with that story. That is tremendous. Oh.
We learned very little about the book.
But more importantly, learned a lot about how much Diane Keaton loves dogs.
Oh my gosh, she really loves dogs.
So other than that, if you could guarantee one of your dreams would come true, which one would it be?
Being able to see the world.
What parts of the world do you want to, do you have a bucket list of places that you want to go?
I do, but it's really, really long. There are
what are the if you're gonna lock in the top 3? What are the 3 places to say, okay, you can go there over the next 3 days. Each day you can go to this new place. Teleported, you don't have to like jet lag, nothing.
Oh, that'd be
what are
so
the 3
legit.
places you're hitting?
New Zealand for sure is up there. Probably
Right.
Botswana and then Chile.
Before we circle back to New Zealand, Botswana and Chile, why?
I would love to be able to see all of the wildlife that lives in Botswana before, our planet dies. And I've always wanted to see Patagonia. Like the mountains of Patagonia just look so spectacularly beautiful, and I think that's another national
Especially on the shirt.
Yeah.
Especially on the shirt tags, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think that's another natural treasure that's probably short-lived for this world, and hopefully we get to go before it's gone.
Gotta go take pictures for the great-great-grandkids to see before it's all melted magma.
Yeah.
So, as far as New Zealand goes, when you go there, are you gonna take the walk to Mount Doom?
I feel like I have to say yes to that because...
You better, otherwise you're getting kicked off this podcast right now, I tell you what.
Yeah, I do think that would be part of it. I think the hike to Mount Doom, which, by the way, was a Halloween costume of mine one year,
Nice.
would probably come in second to visiting Hobbiton. But
yeah, I mean, you gotta start... I mean, you don't want the trip of death to be the only part of it, for sure.
That's true.
But also, the nice bonus, I think, from Hobbiton to Mount Doom is like 2 hours or something like that. It's
really?
Not a long trip. Oh, it's short, yeah.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, I think you could easily go stem to stern and back again for New Zealand easily over the theoretical distance that they walk in the movie. Like, New Zealand's not that long. It's like a country, but, barely.
It's like a country, but barely.
I mean, speaking from, a landmass,
I hope
living in the state
currency.
of California, California, I think, I haven't, mapped it out, but I would bet that California dwarfs, the distance, the length distance when it comes to New Zealand. Nothing against New Zealand. I love your country. I love your people. Anyway. Biggest celebrity crush in high school. Who you got for me?
JC Chazé from NSYNC.
Nice. That's a nice hidden gem shout out right there. Respect.
Oh man, I was in love with him. He was like the bad boy of NSYNC and didn't have ramen hair. Yeah.
It's like being the bad boy of the Glee Club of the after school chess group. He moves his pawn 1 step forward instead of 2. Ooh.
It's true though.
Like in the deep cut though. That is an unshown treasure to be sure. If you could work any of the jobs you've done over the course of your life, but get paid the same as the job where you made the most, which job would you work?
I'd stay where I am now. I love my job.
And what is it that you do? For those of you who don't know you that well.
I negotiate for a living. It's a great time.
Is there anything in particular that you negotiate, or are you just brought in on different projects?
It's a little of this and that. I mostly focus on ads deals now, which is how my company makes money, and specifically ads deals with international customers. But I've done a little bit of anything and everything, from music licenses to celebrity appearances to leases to Santa coming to the holiday party. All of these are things that I've had a hand in, which has been really fun.
Do you predominantly negotiate with what people are doing or how much it's going to cost?
What people are doing.
Okay. So you're not in the financial as so much the kind of objective, moral, subjective kind of decision points.
Yeah,
I would. To each other?
I would define it as establishing the rules for how the transaction's going to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to step on toes or kind of rise above your station to deal with situations that were unseemly to you in a moral direction with what people were asking to get done, and you're just wait, this is not something we should be doing or anything like that? Or is it more just kind of we want this person, go talk to them?
Um, I don't know that I've ever risen above my station to address anything that I believed was wrong. There are definitely moments where I've stopped something because I didn't like the way things were progressing, and we kind of redefined the scope of the problem. But I wouldn't say there was ever a moment where I felt like backed into a corner and I was sneaking around to tell people that something weird is going on and we need to do something about it. That was never an issue for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great in both directions, honestly.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you regret not having done or tried before you graduated high school?
Yes, a lot actually. I was a really timid kid, and
You?
yeah.
No.
Yeah. I was really timid, and I regret not finding my voice in high school, or trying to be a bigger personality, I guess. I think it would have been fine, right? Like, we're so afraid of so many things for no reason, and living with that fear is an unfortunate thing I wish I could go back and change.
Totally. What helped you break out of your shell from that? Because from what you've just described of your job and what I know of you as the person and friend, it is a pretty big difference between you then and you now. What do you think changed that?
Years of therapy.
All right, well,
that, and I think there's just a courage you build as you grow up, right? Like, in my adult life, I've taken a lot of risks, and with each risk comes facing a big fear and overcoming it and living through it and realizing that it's actually not that scary, and practice makes permanent, so you eventually develop better habits than you had. But it took me a really long time to break out of that.
is that what you went to school for, or did
No.
you kind of... What did you go to school for?
I actually went to school for advertising. I wanted to do, like, my dream job was designing print ads in magazines, which is, a great job for right now. And I graduated right after the collapse in 2008. So I was just looking for a job, and I stumbled into the career that I have now in really spectacular fashion, but it's taught me a lot of really great life skills that I'm so grateful to have.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So kind of in that same vein, what are you bad at that you're working to get better at? Do you still find it to be, are there areas where courage is still, kind of not at its full force, or is there something else that, has the similar, that you're working to create a similar trajectory with what you have for, like, speaking in, like, kind of public settings and, like, gathering that courage?
Courage is definitely still a work in progress for me. I think I'm weakest at conflict or giving what I know will be hard feedback. I think confrontation is something I still really struggle with. Public speaking is a bear of its own. Like, I would 100% rather die than give a presentation to 1,000 people, but it's a work in progress, and this is great practice.
I just imagine. Sorry, that was too good of a situational circumstance you just set up that I just imagined, like, stairs, like, leading up to a microphone, and then you looking back and there's, like, a bear in a cage, and you take, like, 2 steps, you look back and you're just like, yeah, just open the cage. Let's get this over with.
It's so funny you say that, because at my very first job out of college, I was in this rotation program. I wish they had the bear in the cage, man. I was in a rotation program, and at the very end of the program, they pulled names out of a fishbowl, and whoever's name got pulled out of a fishbowl, you got to go up on stage and interview the CEO of the company, who was a very nice man. And
I love how they say "get to there." Oh yeah, it's a treat. And like, no, it's not.
It was a privilege. So he's getting ready, giving us his opening remarks, and he's getting ready to draw the names out. He's looking out at the crowd, and he said, "Some of you really look like you'd rather not be here." And sure enough, Ike, the first name he pulls out of that freaking fishbowl is mine. And as I walk up there, he looks at me and he sits down and starts laughing. And he's like, "You're the person I was talking about." I was like, "Great. I don't want to be here. Can anyone else come up?"
And then I threw up on his shoes. So, Amy, do you have any fantastic, bizarre facts that you know to be true?
I do, actually. Did you know that bananas are botanically classified as a berry? But raspberries and blueberries and blackberries are not?
That's fantastic. Why? Do you know the reason behind that?
So the botanical definition of a berry has 3 layers to it. There are fancy names for all of those layers, but I am not a scientist, so I don't remember what they're called. But the outer shell with like the soft inner center and the seeds in the middle is key. So like an eggplant and a cucumber and all that other stuff is botanically defined as a berry. But like a raspberry that has all those little seeds and the little circles is botanically an aggregate fruit because each little circle is its own little fruit. It's crazy, man.
Oh, wild. That's
know.
awesome.
I know.
I just want to now go to like a grocery store, get a banana, a cucumber, and an eggplant, and just go check out and be like, "Just these berries, please," and watch the poor soul behind the counter just like, "What the f are you talking about, dude?" Like, all right, this guy's crazy. Get him out of here as quickly as possible. Maybe that's the way to like get through the checkout line without any hassle or bother. Always take those and say they're berries.
So crazy.
All right. Fill in the blank for me. This weekend was so great. I spent 13 hours doing blank.
Laundry. Is that actually asking what I did this weekend? Because that's what I did this weekend.
No. I'm saying what a great weekend sounds like to you. If 13 hours of doing laundry sounds great to you, the answer sticks, but that would make my brain get another wrinkle.
Painting.
Painting?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of painting?
I love to do watercolor.
How are we talking, like on the wall, easel, like little notebook? I'm very unfamiliar with watercolor painting, clearly.
No, that's a great question. So I have a little watercolor paper pad. Watercolor paper is special. It's like a thicker paper because you are obviously getting it wet. So I just watercolor on that, and it's a great time. It's very relaxing.
That's really cool. Mm-hmm. Do you have a preferred kind of subject matter when you're doing watercolor painting?
Not really. It's just whatever inspires me at the moment. Dachshunds appear a lot in what I watercolor. And
the surprise of nobody.
And a plot twist that surprises no one. But no, it's kind of just whatever I feel like painting that day.
That's awesome. When did you get into watercolor painting?
I actually started watercoloring as a really little kid. I had the fortune of growing up in Washington, D.C. and took art lessons at one of the galleries downtown, and that was really where I started and learned how. And I've done it on and off throughout my life, but it wasn't until a couple years ago that I really got back into it.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you got back into it. That sounds delightful.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So I'm going to give you a scenario. You're at a party, a little meetup with friends, and there's somebody new there. What is something that you see in that person that makes you want to be their friend?
The fact that they're there. Maybe that they're wearing a Dachshund t-shirt. Perhaps they're listening to Taylor Swift.
Is there a characteristic that you find
I don't
to
think
be
so.
endearing as a friend? Or a candidate to be a friend, if you will?
I think just a willingness to engage, probably. If the person wasn't super interested in giving anything back, I'd probably give them their space. Maybe it's just a really overwhelming party for them, but if they were willing to take the walk on this two-way street, I'd be down.
That's really beautiful. Is there something in your life that you wish you had started sooner that you do currently or did for a time?
Tying back to the advice that I was given, taking ownership of my life is something I wish I had started doing a lot sooner.
Yeah. What differences do you think it would have made if you had done it sooner? Would you just been farther along in your, journey as a fully empowered woman in the United States, or, what would have affected for you, do you think?
It's hard to say for sure. I do think it would have impacted my career in a really positive way because I would know my worth. I wouldn't question what people were giving me. I also feel like it makes me a better friend. It makes me a better partner. It makes me a better person to be with overall because I know what I bring to the table and I'm not afraid to bring it anymore. Like, I don't second guess why someone is friends with me. I don't second guess why my fiance wants to be with me, stuff like that.
All right. Careful with how closely you're hitting me where I live. Jesus. Didn't realize it was going to be a PSA on my own podcast.
Sorry.
No, I really appreciate it. That's like, I'm going to have a long think while I look at a ceiling with a dot on it after this. Holy cow. On the flip side of that coin, what do you wish you had ended sooner?
Oh gosh. Being silent when I see something that's not right, or just like taking the abuse of whatever person has come at me. I think the best example of this, and it's something I think every woman who listens to this can relate to, when you have this moment where the boys will be boys mentality kicks in, I feel like a lot of us just put up with that and let it go because we are expected to be polite and be quiet. And I really wish I had stopped doing that a lot sooner instead of standing up and saying, I don't understand why that really sexist joke is funny, or please explain to me why I can't also be present in this meeting, or actually, I do know a lot of things, so I can answer your question. You don't need to go to this man who supports me, who will come to me for the answer anyway. All of these things are things that I really wish I had stopped doing sooner.
Yeah. Now that one is so egregious when it's like you're in charge. There's some, not calling him an idiot, but someone that is of, lesser pecking order, and they are gone to first just because it's like, well, I mean, they clearly, it's like, no, why do they clearly know? There's nothing clear about it just because of, how you were born or, whatever, like, social characteristical class you're just going to, like, pejoratively put them in. So if this is the same answer to the last question, feel free to, rehash it. But if you could go back in time and tell yourself one sentence, what would it be and when would it be?
It would 100% be the advice that I was given, and probably right around junior high, I think, is when I would have wanted to hear it, because then I would have been old enough to understand what someone was trying to explain to me, and young enough that it would have made an impact in how I thought about major moments in your life. What classes you take in high school, and what college you want to go to if that's your choice, or what you want to major in, or what jobs you look at. Like, all of those things are impacted by how you see yourself, and I wish I could have gotten ahead of that a little bit sooner. Not that I'm sad about where my life has ended up, but I do think that advice has been that impactful for me.
Yeah, instead of, I mean, it's the road we take to where we are, right? Instead of taking a road that was, rocky and rigorous, you could have taken one, that takes out those pitfalls that kind of come with, not having your head in a space that you didn't know you wanted it in, basically.
Right. It's like a road with fewer snake pits.
Yeah. And, I mean, I don't know who made that road, but they are a jerk. It suck. All right, before we throw it to our first commercial break, if you could make sure listeners of this podcast heard one song, which song would it be?
I had to think about this one a lot, and I think I would say Cigarettes and Coffee by Otis Redding. I love how that song, to me, is real love. It's just the simplest little thing in everyday moments that that's how you want to spend the rest of your life, right? And I think that song is just so romantic in its ordinariness, if that makes any sense.
It does. I mean, what is life if not addiction and poison, really? That's all life really is.
I should disclaim, I do not encourage picking up smoking. Cigarettes are bad for you.
It truly is a fantastic song. All right, so we're going to go to our first commercial break. Please come back afterwards. But in the meantime, feel free to listen to this totally real advertisement. Or if that's not what you're in the mood for, go listen to Coffee and Cigarettes by Otis Redding. Or Cigarettes and Coffee. I spoonerized that. And then come back after the break. See you in a bit. Have you ever wanted to kill a small woodland creature or break a window but not had the physical strength? I know I have. Now introducing Rock. Rock comes in a variation of sizes and ready to use. Simply put rock in your hand, raise it back to ear level, and release. See? You've got it! This ad does not condone the violence against small woodland creatures or windows, nor will it be held liable for any inability of use when coming into contact with paper. And welcome back, folks. This is our main segment. So, Amy, what's your passion?
It's hard to define in one phrase, but if I had to, I would call it creating community. And what I mean by that is creating a space for everyone to feel a sense of psychological safety by practicing like active kindness. So feel free to dig into that as you need, but that's what I would say my passion is.
When did you start noticing your proclivity for that, particular passion?
I think I first started realizing that it was a gift I had and not just something that everyone did in college. But it's a lifestyle I've always lived because my mom is this way and I see that in her a lot. And I definitely got it from her.
That's sweet.
Yeah, my mom is the best.
So can you put kind of give a really telling example for the people that aren't quite understanding what you mean by this?
Yeah, of course. It's a really hard thing to comprehend off the bat, so I understand needing to clarify. I think the best example I can give would be the relationship that I have with my barista. And bear with me, I know that sounds a little strange, but
it sounds like you're a lot richer than you are. Your barista.
That's true. That is not what I'm trying to imply. But I know all of them by name. I know what they go to school for. I know their kids' names if they have them. I know their kids' grades. I listen to their triumphs and their challenges, and I have a really great relationship with them, and you can see it when you walk into the room and someone just lights up. Like, they're excited to see you and they're happy that you're there because they know that you're a person who cares about them. And I think that there's a lot of value in being able to give that gift to someone.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, how does this... Now, I think a lot of people misunderstand your passion for just being friendly to everybody. And in a way that is and isn't. How would you say that differentiates between just being, friendly in the most kind of banal fashion?
There's an active... It's like using active versus passive voice is how I would describe it. It's active versus passive kindness. So if you have a day where you're going about and you're just being a generally nice person, I would call that passive kindness. But when you're practicing active kindness, you are actively listening and you are remembering to the extent possible. I have a terrible memory, so I struggle with this sometimes. Remembering what people tell you and remembering what's important to them and trying to make notes of the little things that make them who they are. So, for example, if I know that someone has 2 kids and one is starting kindergarten, ask how their first day of school went when you know it started. Or if someone's having a really hard time because their father-in-law died, make sure they're doing okay. Those are all things that are really important in the practice of active kindness. It's not just the hey, how are you, fine exchange that we're all really familiar with. It's answering the question with what you mean and allowing someone the same space to do the same.
Do you ever find yourself in this kind of... Is this something you make time for or that you find time for?
A little bit of both. I will say that it does take effort to invest that much energy in people. You can't really rush through an encounter if you're trying to do that unless you tell people in advance, like, hey, I'm running out the door, but I just wanted to check and make sure, like, this went okay, or how this day went for you, or hey, I think that color looks awesome on you, and I'm really glad that you were able to be successful in this thing you tried. So it's definitely more of an effort, and if you ask someone, how are you doing, and you really want to know the answer, you have to be willing to take the time to listen to it.
Yeah. Now, is this something that... So the situation you've reminded me of is that kind of classic, and it's a bit of a hokey, jokey, comedic setup of, guys running late for work, just needs to get a cup of coffee, and the lady in front of him is just, having a very delightful discussion with the barista about, something uncoffee related. Is that something that, they matter and this person can wait a little bit? Or is that something that you kind of pick and choose when you decide you want to just have a full-on conversation and deep dive into that person's personal life?
You absolutely pick and choose because their time also deserves respect, right? Like if the barista is busy in this instance, their goal is their job. Like they need to be successful at their job, and standing in the way of that is not respectful of their time. So it's definitely a balance where, you chat when you have the time and they have the time and they want to engage in that way, and you don't when it's not going to be appropriate.
Absolutely. Would you say that's the biggest misconception about this passion of yours by the wider world, or is there one that even kind of stands out more glaringly?
I think the biggest misconception is that everybody does it. Like the fact that you ask someone like, hey, how's your day going? And you say fine is not what I'm talking about. Yeah. I think there's so much more to it, and there's so much more that we can all be doing to create that space for each other.
Yeah, it's like this is like the equivalent of being like, I have a black friend. It's like, no, a guy who is African American. Mm-hmm. Like these aren't the same thing. Just because, right? Like, is this like a fair, askewed kind of metaphor here? That, the listening of like, and talking to somebody and be like, oh, hi, how are you? And they're like, fine. And then you move on, or like the vice versa. It's the kind of comparative too. It's just like, yeah, just because you've interacted with this person doesn't make you friends.
Right.
You have to like dig deeper, spend more time, know them. And like, that's how true community and true friendship evolves, proceeds, and how we expand, love throughout our society.
Right. I think that's a pretty good way to describe it. It's the difference between living next door to someone and living next door to someone and knowing about their experience and giving them space to share their experience without trying to upstage it.
Yeah. What would you say your favorite non-obvious aspect is to this passion?
Can you clarify the question?
Like, for me, one of my favorite non-obvious aspects of... so I've been playing Magic since I was 15. Mm-hmm. We're not going to go into how many years old I am because I guard that privately. But one of my favorite non-obvious aspects of Magic that I learned very late was how much it like has informed me and taught me about like cost benefit analysis and thusly economics. I took
interesting.
I don't remember if it was micro or macro. I couldn't tell you because I got through the class. I got a good grade, but it's been more than a week, so I've forgotten which one it was. But when going into the class and after about the third day, I realized I kind of understood a lot of the processes via just having played Magic for so long because of the way this like the inner game system works and how you have resources and you have to allocate them and use them in a timely manner. And the same is relatively true in low rent economics 101 kind of scenarios, as far as I could tell from getting through this class. So that was one of those kind of favorite, for me, non-obvious aspects of just like, oh, I've inherently learned like how to do cost benefit analysis when it comes to real life through playing a game.
Okay, I understand. Thank you for clarifying. I think my favorite non-obvious aspect of this particular passion of creating community is how contagious it is. When you start doing it, pardon the contagion reference during these difficult times, but when you
She's patient zero.
when you start doing this and other people see that you do it, they start doing it too, and it just creates this really wonderful positive environment. And I did not really expect that permission slip is something that would happen, but that's really what you're giving people, and it's kind of awesome.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, you're creating this mob, this infectious mob of loving people who care about their neighbors.
You're creating a community.
Yeah, I like the way I said it. Do you have it sounds a little bit trite, but do you have like an end goal or something you're driving towards with this passion? Or is it just something that is done, on the day to day and just kind of almost like an ethos of your personal self?
I would call it more of an ethos, but I do think that my life goal has always been to just make people's lives better because I was in it. Because I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor. My contributions to this world are pretty much limited to how I live my life. And
watercolor paintings of dogs.
And watercolor paintings of dogs, of course. But I want to make sure that the impact that I do have is a really positive one.
Well, if that's not a takeaway from this podcast, I don't know what is. So from the beautiful and caring to the preposterous and peevy, what is your preposterous peeve, Amy?
Oh my fucking God, my fiance's toilet paper etiquette. Oh my God, it drives me so crazy. He bless his heart, I love him so much. I feel like I need to disclaim that at the beginning of this story.
For how much I'm about to tear this man down.
Ignore everything I said about being nice to people. No. So he does a couple of things that just, oh my God, drive me absolutely insane. The first is that in the event he does put toilet paper back when you change out the roll, he puts it on backwards. And just FYI, toilet paper has a patent. There is a right way to put it on. It's not either way goes. It is the front side goes forward, and he does it backwards. It drives me insane. The other thing he'll do is leave the empty roll on the little toilet paper holder, and our trash can is right on the opposite side of the toilet. It's not very far away, so he could just easily move it over. It'd be 2 seconds of work.
2 seconds to be a responsible adult.
But instead, the new toilet paper, which he has lovingly removed and gotten out to replace, is just sitting on the trash can. And I'm so the new toilet paper is right where it needs to go, but you can't take the roll off and throw it away and then put it on, even if it's backwards. Oh man, I don't feel like this is all that preposterous, but it's a little ridiculous. So I'll use this. This feels completely reasonable to me.
So I've got a theoretical to throw your way. I've heard this before from, please don't howl too loud at me. Cat owners will do it backwards because it prevents the cat from being able to paw at an inverted treadmill and just have all of the toilet paper on the ground. Mm-hmm. What is your take on that? Aside from the fact they own cats.
We don't have cats.
I know, but I'm saying for cat owners.
I know deep down that my fiance wishes we could have a cat. And he's he'll never say it out loud because that won't fly in our household. But
it's divorce.
I get it. If your cat is doing sociopathic cat things and wants to make a giant mess in your bathroom, then sure, do it backwards. But we are a dog household, so like, apply it like a dog.
That's amazing. I love how they're both in exactly the wrong spot. That's the part that makes it just so good. It's like all you have to do is change. Like you have them exactly wrong, Dan. That's great.
It's like so close and yet so far every time. Every time.
You got it all the way right except for one step. Like reverse the nouns and you nailed it. Like that's the objects, you have them exactly backwards.
He really does.
And with that fantastic bit of joviality, we are going to throw it to our second commercial break. Come back, because right after that, we've got the lightning round. See you in a bit. Having trouble staying awake?
Oh, yeah.
Wish you'd followed your dream so you had the give a crap necessary to meet your deadlines?
Oh, definitely.
Are you likely to be fired the second another warm body walks through that door and asks your boss for an application?
Probably.
Would you prefer to keep this shit sack of a job instead of explaining to Susan that you've been fired?
I mean, I guess.
Well then, let me introduce you to caffeine. Caffeine is a highly addictive substance that'll keep you jittery and energized to do any fucking stupid task for hours.
That sounds like drugs.
It is!
Aren't drugs illegal?
Not this one. So next time you feel like sitting on the sidewalk instead of at your desk, reach for a caffeine.
Wait, you didn't tell me where I can buy it.
'Cause it's mother-loving everywhere, you blind Neanderthal. And welcome back, folks. Amy, you ready to get into the lightning round?
Is there a god or
Lightning round.
Oh, heck yes.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
No.
Lions, tigers, or bears?
Bears.
Caffeine or alcohol?
Caffeine.
Are hot dogs sandwiches?
No.
You are having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Probably something terrible.
Bow ties or suspenders?
Bow ties.
Is there a god?
No.
Neapolitan or Spumoni?
Ooh, Spumoni.
Are we alone in the universe?
No.
No one's looking. Do you put your cart back or leave it in the parking lot?
Put the cart back every time.
Kill the spider or get an adult?
Oh my gosh. Get an adult.
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
Pineapple on pizza.
Have you ever paid more for a meal than you made in a week?
No.
If you had the power to see the future but couldn't change it, would you use it?
Yes.
Red or blue?
Blue.
Is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
No.
Shakira's voice in Danny DeVito's body or Danny DeVito's voice in Shakira's body?
Danny DeVito's voice and Shakira's body.
Wine or beer?
Wine.
Over or under?
Over.
Salsa or Lindy Hop?
Salsa.
Dog or cat?
Dog.
Sunny side up, scrambled, or hard boiled?
Sunny side up.
Which do you max out first? Intelligence, charisma, or strength?
Charisma?
Can billionaires be ethical?
No.
Which one of your parents settled?
My mom?
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
Oh, I would take Fran Drescher. Yeah.
All right, congratulations. You've survived the
Lightning round.
What lightning round question would you like to ask me and in turn be asked of future guests?
Popsicles or Klondike bars?
Klondike bar. Not close. That's basically all I do to get a Klondike bar too is answer that. So there we are. What about yourself? Klondike bar or popsicle?
Klondike bar, but like the Reese's one.
Oh shit! I didn't know I made a Reese's one.
Yeah, it's really good.
Sounds duh to the ope.
I also thought of another really good lightning round question just now. Do you say Reese's Pieces or Reese's Pieces?
That one's hard to write. I have to write that phonetically. Let's see. I say Reese's Pieces, I guess. I
You're
like
wrong.
Reese's Pieces.
We can't be friends anymore. It's over.
But I'll let you have all of my Reese's Pieces.
Ugh, fine, I guess I'll stay.
Reese's Pieces. Oh, good God, y'all. That's terrific. All right. Anything you want to plug, recommend, places people could find you or your content?
No, I don't have social
Not-
media, and I highly recommend it.
The classic Luddite answer. You're not like watching any TV shows or reading any good books right now?
Oh, actually, if you want a great TV show, I have 3. First is The Expanse on Amazon Prime. Let's talk about how good that shit is.
I've been told the books are great too.
I haven't finished the books. I'm in the first one now. It is also great, but the show, it looks like it's in space. I don't even know how they did it. It's fucking science. We are living in the future. It looks like they
Boom,
filmed in
boom.
space. And then His Dark Materials on HBO was fantastic. Very well
Better
done.
than the movie?
Yes, 100%. Not hard, easy to do. Definitely check that out. And then obviously, if you need a hug, you should probably watch Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso's the biz.
Oh my
Highly
god,
recommend
it's
as
so
well.
good.
I never have been so compelled to watch a show. Almost watched it all in one day if my dad wasn't an oldie moldy. We watched it
It's-
with him, which was terrific. It is
It's like watching a
truly-
hug.
It really is the best. And it's not like a hug in like the traditional bland sense. Like I feel like not to knock anything, but a lot of shows that are hugs don't hold up to like narrative structure, like the kind of like looking at something as if it should be a piece of art as well as something that's comforting. A lot of the times you sadly usually have to choose between one or the other. And at least with season 1, haven't gotten around to watching season 2 because my my free pass expired because I am not paying for Apple TV.
Fair enough.
But in the first season, it literally is a banger on all axes. It like really doesn't relent. It's truly a tour de force and would highly recommend it as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You can't go wrong.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, Amy, for being my guest today.
Thank you so much for
And-
having me.
And special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And especially thank you for everybody listening at home or wherever you found time to appreciate this. And if you want to listen more, you can find more episodes put out every Monday at midnight on SoundCloud at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves, or on YouTube at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast, all one word with an ampersand in the middle. And remember, folks, water's wet, grass tastes funny. If you don't think so, you might be a bunny. Have a good one.